Hey summoners, make sure that you're subscribed to the Mobalytics YouTube channel and hit that bell button, that way you're always up to date and part of our notification squad. Hello summoners and welcome back to Mobalytics, where today we have the patch 9.4 video tier list. Hey guys, wanted to shout out right before we started that we have an awesome giveaway celebrating 100,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel here at Mobalytics. We wanted to give back to the community and let you guys know that we're extremely thankful for it. We have 3 awesome things giving away. We have a statue from Riot from your favorite league champions from their unlocked store. We also have 1 year of Mobalytics premium subscription as well, and we have some RP. So all 3 of these items are super cool and a big part of our giveaway. So we just wanted to say thank you. We'll leave a link in the description down below and in the comments for where you can sign up and enter. Hey, so some pretty big changes on this patch. We have the new introduction of the Conqueror rune, and now AP champions can take it. It seems like certain AP champions like Exil or Cassiopeia might be pretty good with this rune, so we'll have to keep an eye out on them and check that out. We also have some changes and some nerfs. Finally, Urgot received the nerfs that he probably should receive, and right now on the PvE, the Kale and Morgana reworks are there as well in their visual updates. They look pretty cool, so if you play PvE and you're excited for next patch, let us know. Maybe we'll go ahead and do a video on the new Kale and Morgana. Anyway, without further ado, let's just get into the video and talk about some of the changes for patch 9.4 because it feels like this meta is going to be really open-ended. Starting off in the top lane, let's go over Nasus, Garen, Yorick, and Kled. First off, Yorick. Wow, this champion is really darn good. He's finally seeing the competitive play that he probably should have received a couple of patches ago after he got some nice buffs. Yorick is pretty darn good, and the Conqueror changes should be okay for him. There's no reason why he shouldn't be able to do well with it, especially since it even says in the tooltip about him that the damage over time effects, just like his Maiden, will continue to proc Conqueror and give you 1 stack every 5 seconds. Yorick should still be dominant in the top lane and retain his glory as one of the best top lane champions in the game. As for my pick of the patch, I went with Kled in the top lane in S tier, and that is because Kled is a champion that is surprisingly good and has been for quite a while. He was good with the pre-rework version of Conqueror, but maybe even better this time with the new one. This is because he stacks it up very quickly with his W auto attack speed, meaning that he can more often than not be able to out-trade his opponent by getting 5 stacks faster than the lane opponent he's against. Conqueror versus Conqueror champions in top lane, Kled should be able to win. On top of that, his great laning phase transitions into good roams and maybe even better team fights. His ultimate is one of the best tools in the game and is great for carrying solo queue type games, so that being said, mount up your Scarl and charge into the rift with Kled. If you would like to be better at Kled and learn from the best of the best, we recommend you check out Mobalytics and more specifically Soulmario on Mobalytics Summoner Profile. This guy is one of the best Kleds in the world and has been challenger for multiple seasons, doing extremely well as a Kled one trick. This guy's so clean at Kled, so what I will do is I will leave a description down below, not only where you can sign up for Mobalytics for free today, but also you can check out his profile, check out his runes, his builds, his itemization, and I'll even leave you a cool montage of his as well to check out because he really does have some nice flashy plays on Kled, so make sure you check out Mobalytics at mobalytics.gg. Moving on to the rest of top lane, let's just talk about a couple things here. Things like Malzahar actually might be surprisingly good with Conqueror. Again, it sounds super weird, but don't be surprised if it works in the top lane. As well, I think Teemo with Conqueror is pretty good, and let's go over Yasuo super quickly. For the high elo top laners, this list is basically catered around what champions can abuse and use Conqueror the most. Things like Teemo and Sylas and Jace and Rengar and Yorick and Yasuo and Camille, all these champions do really well with the new Conqueror, again because it's adaptive and that's kind of how it works. It's pretty darn solid and I really like how they integrated this into the top lane, especially since now AP champions can use it. Even keep an eye out for things like Rumble might be pretty darn good. As far as the rest of the list, I do think your best tanks right now that Urgot was nerfed, look at things like Sion, Garen, and Nasus, and even Alawi to some extent, and Singed, all are super solid tanks in the top lane. Moving on to the jungle position, in S tier we have Udyr, Rammus, Ivern, and Nunu and Willump. These are champions we talked about last time, and if you're curious, basically the low econ junglers at the moment and low experienced junglers, that's kind of what is ruling the meta at the moment, and tanks more specifically, things like Sejuani as well. The reason that these are good is because they actually nerfed the jungle experience, so the ultimate low econ ganking jungler, things like Ivern and Nunu and Willump, will be top tier for quite a while unless the jungle receives some love. A lot of the carry style junglers will be worse than they have been in the past, things like Kha'Zix, and because of that nerf to Rek'Sai, that bug fix on his Q, he's going to be worse as well. As far as Adam's pick of the patch, we have Kayn as an A tier jungler. Now he went with Kayn because of the new Conqueror rune as well. As you can see, it's kind of a theme on this patch because it's a pretty big change, but the reason it's good is because it also works on abilities. Right now there were people actually taking the old Conqueror on red Kayn, but it was really only for late game stuff. It wasn't the best for him early game, and because you needed 4 seconds in combat to stack it up, junglers usually did not want to go Conqueror as well, but now with the way it works, it's actually super solid on Kayn, so check out red Kayn with Conqueror this patch. For high elo junglers, Sejuani, Ivern, and Nunu and Willump pretty much will run the pack here. Some other things are interesting. Jarvan has been much better recently, Vi has been overperforming and slightly better than a lot of you might think. Definitely check out Vi. We do think Kindred is good with the crit itemization, and so is Shaco, but they are outclassed by the low econ tanks for sure, and 1 or 2 junglers you should keep an eye out on. Definitely don't sleep on Volibear. Everybody likes to talk about how bad he is. Volibear's pretty good as well, and Hecarim with the direct buffs to him, he probably is more like A tier, so keep an eye out for Hecarim. Okay, moving on to the mid lane list. In the mid lane, in S tier, we have Wukong, Zilean, Vel'Koz, and Anivia. We have addressed why Wukong is a good mid laner for carrying lower elo games and mid tier games for quite a while. Basically, he's just too hard to kill because of the resistances Riot gave to the runes. You can get extremely tanky in the early game while having pretty good damage. And also, if you wanted to and they have a tanky team, Conqueror is totally viable on Wukong as well. Anivia has moved up into S tier and is a pretty solid champion, and we really do like her. But then let's talk about Cassiopeia. For Midbeast, his pick of the patch was Cassiopeia because of the new Conqueror being the optimal rune choices for mages such as Cassio and Azir at the moment. The ideal setup is things like Conqueror into Presence of Mind, Tenacity, and Coup de Grace with the Mana Flow ban and Transcendence. Assassins right now, such as Zoe, Talon, and LeBlanc, will still be pretty strong picks this patch, as the early dominance you can have in lane to priority contest Scuttle will be very important, just as ever, but the difference now is that if you're able to be a bit more scaling and wait out that mid game, certain champions like Azir or Cassio who can actually impact the mid and late game extremely high with their massive DPS, you will be able to impact the game. Midbeast really does like these champions and thinks that Cassiopeia is pretty good, so watch out for them. As for high elo for this patch, Zoe has sprung way up in popularity and priority. She has become one of the best mid laners in the game once again. We also do think that Veigar is pretty good and people underrate him constantly. If he's able to get to level 13, he is extremely good. Also, he's known for being a good pick into Azir. He's been picked many times in competitive play as an Azir counter pick, and he scales even harder than Azir does. As far as some other champions, yeah, definitely keep an eye out for things like Cassiopeia, definitely keep an eye out for things like Azir, Anivia. Vladimir has been shooting way up with the Phase Rush build. We think Vladimir is pretty slick as well. Alright, moving on to the bottom lane position. In S tier, we have Jinx, Sivir, Twitch, and Yasuo. Personally, I really like all of these champions and think they're extremely effective in solo queue, and if you're interested in Twitch, make sure you check out the video that we just put out pretty recently on how good is Twitch bottom lane. We went into some more analytical and in-depth analysis on Twitch, and we think that he's pretty solid, so check out the video that we just put out. As far as A tier, some of the highlights here that I really like, Lucian and Vayne are doing worse than they were in the last couple of patches, and the Lucian nerfs were decently sizable on his W and hurt his mana flow band and Doran's Ring strategy. Draven and Kalista have been doing extremely well. We do think that Draven can move up potentially and be insanely good with Conqueror, and Kalista is surprisingly good right now as well, not as buggy as she used to be, and has a good keystone option maybe in Conqueror. But let's talk about Kai'Sa. Our final pick of the patch came from Hewitt, and he decided to go with Kai'Sa, and this is because Kai'Sa's win rate suggests that she's not doing so well right now, but her results have been heavily influenced by players just incorrectly buying Stormrazor first. Make sure you switch your build to Infinity Edge, Rageblade, and Hurricane right into crit, and you'll start seeing much better results. The Rageblade into Nashor's build is still okay, but with Assassins and burst damage slowly phasing out, you don't necessarily need the defensive flexibility of buying items like Zanya's anymore, so the AP build is probably not as effective overall as the AD crit build. Moving on to the high elo bottom laners, like we talked about a bit before, Yasuo should be okay with these changes to the crit items and to the crit damage on his Q, as well as the Conqueror changes. He should still be a great S tier bottom laner. I do think that a couple things are more interesting. Technically, Mordekaiser could go Conqueror, and he has damage over time on his ultimate. Some other things could be quite solid. Corki has been popping up recently. Corki does so much damage right now, but it's just harder for him to win solo queue games, not having a ton of initiative outside of his package, but he's quite good. Varus got some nice bug fixes to his kit. Apparently Varus was just doing not enough damage because his kit literally was bugged, so it's interesting that he should be quite a bit better now as well. Finally, let's talk about supports. In S tier, we have Nami, Taric, Vel'Koz, and Sona. As for Sona, this is a champion that we've rated highly for quite a while, and that is because she has consistently had a solid win rate in both low and high elo for quite a while, and people do underestimate how good she can be. She is extremely squishy, and you do need to be careful, but taking more defensive styles in your runes, having resistances and health, on top of maybe even taking Guardian into bone plating, will allow you to stay alive much more, and she's quite good as a AP style of support as well, with things like Lichbane and Deathcap. She can do very well. On top of that, remember that the Spell Thief's line and the coin line did get buffed on this patch and on the hotfix of last patch, simply because they were worried about the Kleptomancy top lane build. So for certain enchanters who really value getting more gold than before, things like Sona, they can do quite well. For your high elo supports, despite his nerfs, Thresh will probably still be incredibly dominant in the state of the game right now. Aftershock is just way too good on him. Doesn't matter if you miss your hook, you can usually just use your Flay. Janna we've bumped up to S tier on this patch because people are still going to be playing more crit style marksman, more attack speed oriented things, and even when things like Azir are meta, building Ardent Sensor on Janna is still helpful for him, so that's probably why you will see Janna do very well on this patch. Some other things are really interesting. We think Fiddlesticks is quite good, we think Blitzcrank is quite good, and Ornn support is totally legit, so make sure you try out some Ornn support as well. Anyway guys, this has been the Mobalytics patch 9.4 video tier list. Make sure you check out the product and check out our giveaway in the description down below, like we said in the beginning of the video. Check out that giveaway and use Mobalytics at mobalytics.gg, your all-in-one platform for improving at League of Legends.